Okay, if you've been watching these in progression, then I went through the training, and then I went through the tutorial, and then I went through one on VR and the different classes. The one I did previous to this was the first experience this character had out in the battlefield. Played for a while, ran with a platoon, showed where the markers were deployed on the map in regards to squads in the platoon, and showed what basic combat was like, talk about what the things that a new player can do to get experience. This is going to be focused on vehicles, and we're in the VR. This is a good place to get basic training on the vehicles and learn how they perform. We're gonna so if you're running with vehicles, you want to be able to repair them. So let's go over to an infantry terminal, and we'll move and change into an engineer. Vehicle terminals for the ground have a tank icon on them. Vehicles for the air have the air terminal icon on them. They also have a little air terminal above them, icon above them, and this has like a little tank looking thing above it. And if you look on the map, you can see them on the map too. There's the air ones and there's the ground ones. The infantry ones have a little gun over them. Alright, so we're going to start with our first vehicle, which is going to be the Flash. The Flash starts off with no weapon, and you're just basically on an ATV driving around. I call it a bike. It's an ATV. Alright, so we're going to go out and we're going to look at the kind of weapons they can have available and the different kind of things we can slot using the Flash. I didn't actually mean to deploy that, so I apologize. Okay, so you have a primary weapon slot, and you can pick from different kind of weapons. As a base, you don't have any. The Cobalt is entirely anti-infantry machine gun. The Basilisk is an anti-vehicle, anti-infantry machine gun. The Fury is a grenade launcher. The Renegade is a shotgun. And the Buzzard is a mortar. Usually what I run on this is a Basilisk. The Fury does a lot of damage, but you can actually fire a shot and run into the area where the explosion is before it goes off. So unless you got a lot of control, or or unless you want to stop and fire, then I would avoid using the Fury. The Buzzard's using good for lobbing stuff over walls and stuff into a base, or over some kind of rock or something that hits something. It's fun to play with, but primarily I use the Basilisk, so I'm going to use the Basilisk. So that's changed my slot up here with the primary weapon to the Basilisk. All vehicles have a utility, defense, and performance slots. Some have a primary and secondary weapon. They might already have a third and fourth weapon. In the utility slot, this is what you can use. Fire suppression instantly repairs the vehicle a little bit and stops fires. If you get down really low on health, your vehicle will turn red. It'll be on fire and it'll destroy itself because it's on fire. That'll put the fire out. It also, you can use it to heal before you can get down that bad. Gate shield diffuser allows you to go through shields on bases. You can take those down with those generators you saw during the tutorial, but this will allow you to temporarily physically stabilize so you can go through those shields. Also, you take no ram damage while the shield diffuser is running. So if somebody's getting ready to run into you, you could use it, or if you're getting ready to run into something else, you could use it. Turbo makes you go faster. You use your utility slot to activate it. The same with fire suppression and the gate shield diffuser. It's the same thing that you would use to use your utility on your infantry. Scout radar sets up a radar over a certain amount of distance. It will reveal everybody that's moving on, everybody's running or vehicles on the map with whatever distance it says, and it'll reveal it to everybody in your faction. That can be extremely useful, and every enemy that gets killed while you have them revealed, while you're the one revealing them, you get points for it. The same goes with queuing them, so you should try to queue a lot, unless you want. But queuing reveals where you are too, so be careful about you're queuing. With the scout radar, it does not reveal where you are. It only reveals where the enemy is, and so that could be very beneficial. Smoke screen puts a smoke screen around you. It'll break lock-ons, and it makes it harder for enemies to target you. Really, the secret is with smoke screens is that if you queue somebody, they still have the marker above their head, so you can still kind of see generally where they are. Wraith cloaking is only usable when you're an infiltrator, and that allows you to turn the flash invisible, and you can run around, sneak around, and it's got a timer on it, and it takes time to recharge. For the sake of running around in here, I'm going to go ahead and just take the fire suppression because the scout radar doesn't work in VR. Defense here, you can have armor on here, mine guard to stop you from getting blown to mines, auto repair, and vehicle stealth. Okay, so when you're on the flash, you're completely revealed and people can headshot you. So the armor doesn't help you at all. If you don't have the implant for the minesweeper, then mine guard could help you against running over enemy vehicle mines. Auto repair would repair your vehicle, but if you're going to go down before the vehicle does in most cases, so I don't suggest doing that. What I virtually always run is vehicle stealth. This allows you to remain invisible on the map to most people as long as they don't queue you and within a certain amount of range of enemy vehicles, because your vehicles make noise. They're spotted on the map after a certain amount of distance unless you have stealth, and that increases the amount of distance it is before somebody can auto detect you. So I almost go with that. And then performance wise, you have to take your pick. Eraser makes you go faster, but it's less stable. Scrapper gives you more traction, turning, and brakes and reverse speed. And the Surger gives you more hill climbing. I kind of like hill climbing. Most of the time I use that. Scrapper is decent, so you can use that. If you're on an open area, like out on Indar, running around in the flats in the desert, then that's okay. But I'm going to go ahead and run with this because I'm going to do some mountain climbing with this one real quick. Okay, so I got my flash out here. I got my weapon. I can do a, whoops, I didn't get I don't have any zoom on it. So I apparently didn't get any zoom on it, so I don't have any zoom at all. I thought I had at least a little bit. But just like picking on a class with your infantry weapons, you can pick scopes on any of the vehicle weapons. So there's an enemy, and kill him, he's an enemy. And of course they're going to be shooting back. When you're in a vehicle, you can go to third person. And you do that, I think the default is maybe T. And I don't know why it's not letting me go to third person either. Well, it's not letting me do it. So anyway, so you just drive around. This is a good area to practice in driving in VR, just getting a feel of what the different terrain's like. And there's like little jumps and stuff out here, so you can have fun practicing jumping around and stuff. So that's what the Flash is basically like. It's a small vehicle. It's a bike. You know, it's a, I like calling it a bike, but it's an ATV. And primarily you just use this for scouting. It's what I primarily use it for. If you use the race flash, or if you're really ballsy, you can use it to attack sunderers. It's not a heavy attack vehicle, obviously, and you can see that you're completely visible when you're on the back of it, so you will get killed. Get shot off the back of it more likely than anything. I virtually never get killed because my flash is destroyed. I get blown off the back of it. Alright, so we're going back, redeploying. We're going to go back to the vehicle terminal again. We'll look at the next vehicle. Okay, the Harasser is basically a dune buggy, and it comes with the base of having the basilisk on top for free. You can it's got the basic gate diffuser, smoke shield, and the fire suppression. So usually I will use this as fire suppression unless I'm going to use it to try to sneak into bases. I don't usually use smoke screens too much. If I use more infantry based smoking than vehicle based smoking, but that does stop lock on, so it can be useful. Defense wise, Composite armor is decent on the harasser. It will protect the driver and the top gunner. There's a third seat in the back. It does not protect the guy in the third seat. He can get shot out of the back. But if you get a guy in the back, primarily what he's going to be doing is he's going to be doing repair for you, hopefully. That's the most useful guy to have in the back seat, really, when it comes down to it. Mine guards for anti-vehicle mines. Auto repair is going to be useful if you want to run and gun, do some auto repair. Hopefully you got an engineer in the back. If you don't have an engineer in the back, that might be an option. Proximity radar shows enemy vehicles in area just to guys that are in your vehicle. It doesn't reveal it to the rest of the faction. Vehicle stealth is good for sneaking around if you're going that route. I'm going to get the armor. Performance wise, got the same kind of thing as we did with the Flash, the racer, chassis, scrapper, and surger. Once again, this is more for flat terrain. This is more for any kind of terrain overall. I kind of like handling and hill climbing, so I'm gonna go with that. So you can see on this one vehicle on the right hand side, you see the vehicle and you got 3 seats in it. Right now I'm in the driver's seat, there's a gunner seat, and there's a third seat in the back. And so when you're in the third seat in the back, if you're an engineer, you can turn sideways and you can repair it. If you turn sideways is about the best way to do it because the vehicle's moving around. It's hard to keep it here. It's easier to keep it locked in the corner over here. Alright, we're going to move out here. Let me see if it's going to let me change viewpoints on this one. Nope. For whatever reason, it's not letting me change viewpoints. Let me check to make sure I'm in my right. I think I'm in my right. Alright, so I'm on my correct loadout now. It's not letting me. Alright, there we go. Alright, so this is, it kind of jumps around a little bit. By default you have a turbo, and this is built in on the harassers. Move to the second seat, to the gunner seat. Like I said, this is a 3-person vehicle. Hopefully you have all 3 people. And I have my game sound turned down to about half. Really, for communications in this game, communications are critical. So it's good to have your game sounds turned down to about half, and so your voice, you get the voice chat turned up so you'll be able to hear it above the gunfire. And once again, your magazines, if they're not all empty, they won't refill unless you automatically refill them yourself. It's always good when you're in a vehicle, if you leave a gunner seat for whatever reason, you jump out of a Sunday after gunning, you know, for whatever reason you're leaving that seat, always do a reload on it so the next guy gets in got a full magazine. Alright, I'm just going to drive around here a little bit, get a feel of what the terrain's like out here and driving across it. And there aren't any enemy forces, here in VR, so you can just have fun tooling around out here and practice and run around. And there is a there's actually courses around here you can take. Like if you always took the right-hand turn, see where that takes you all the way around. And you can alternate rights and lefts, and they'll take you on different paths. So this will give you a good feel for driving the vehicles in the terrain, which I think is a good thing to do. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the base again, get the next vehicle. I think I'm going to go ahead and break this down into ground vehicles and air vehicles, because the ground vehicle is going to be kind of long by itself anyway. Alright, so I'm running back out here and going back out here to the ground vehicle terminal again. Okay, so the Sunder is the main ground deployment vehicle. None of the other ones have direct deploy into them. You can get a logistics implant which allows deploy into the vehicle. Otherwise, this is the only vehicle that has direct deploy. It has direct deploy for your squad, and when you deploy it on the field, it'll be a deploy area for anybody in your faction as well. So this starts out with the two basilisks up top, which are decent fire weapons. We're going to go ahead and go into that weapons and look at the weapons on this one. So the first slot is picking out which weapon it is. The second slot is picking out whether maga reload speed, mag size or reload speed. Generally, you just decide which is better as mag size or reload speed. Ammo wise, I think it's you can buy this in VR, but it's better just not buy things in VR. Just buy them when you're out actually on a continent. One of the 4 active continents when you're doing purchases for your character. So I'm not going to purchase anything here, but generally what I've purchased is level 5 on this. When you're it goes up higher than that, but generally in a vehicle, if you have ammo level 5, you're going to have enough ammo to last on the field until you're destroyed and or you're able to go someplace else and get resupplied. So that's a 5 or 6 is like a decent level to have. My suggestion pretty much on purchasing anything for a new player is when you're purchasing zooms and whatnot, don't get the highest level, get the second to highest level. Just save up and get the second to highest level on things. Ammo, you got to buy your way up. For the zoom, you can just buy zooms. You don't have to buy the levels all the way up. If you're a member, save up and get the 2 times, but if you're not, just get 1.75. It's almost practically 2, and it'll do decent by you, and you can conserve certs that way. So decide which ones of these you want. I'll go with mag size in this case, and there's 2 weapons on there you'll be purchasing for your gunners, so slot out those 2. So all those are slotted on both. They show up here. And utilities, we've got the same kind of utilities again. I would go with fire suppression in most cases. Vehicle shield stealth if you're trying to get up inside of a base with Sunderer. You can't deploy up inside of most bases, areas that you can get into when you have to go through a shield diffuser. So if you use a shield diffuser to get through a shield, then not going to be able to deploy, and only people that are in your squad are going to be able, or your platoon will be able to deploy to your vehicle through the Sunder, or the rest of the faction won't be able to. So we have the same kind of, we have blockade armor is basically extra armor for the vehicle. Deployment shield is when you deploy, just put your shield around. This is highly powerful for defensive purposes. If you're deploying for people deployed to you in the field when you're actually deployed, and I'm going to show you what deploying is in a moment. Mine guard is again for anti-vehicle mines. Auto repair is for repairing other vehicles that are around you. Oh, sorry, that's the one that repairs yourself, automatically repairs yourself. This one's the one that the proximity repair is the one that repairs other vehicles around you. It's extremely useful to have repair centers on the battlefield. Proximity radar does the radar the same way that it did with the harasser. Only vehicle occupants have a benefit of this, so that only has a minor benefit. It doesn't benefit the entire faction. Stealth cloaking makes your vehicle, your Sunder completely invisible. You would have seen that during the final part of my leveling, early character leveling video, where I was near a Sunder that was kind of glowing and it was invisible, and it was just like you saw, just a framework of it. That's invisible to the enemy. They cannot see that on the radar, and that can be very useful, but you don't get any defense benefit from that. Ammo resupplies ammo to vehicles that are in your area, so that can be extremely useful when you're in large columns of friendly vehicles. You can just run up and down the columns and resupply. That's also a way to get a lot of certs. And they're repairing other vehicles, of course, just like with the engineer doing repairs. That's good for certs. So I'm going to go ahead and just put the deployment shield on it for. I'm gonna put the stealth cloak because that has the most visible effect on the field. So I'm gonna go with that. I'll go back out here, and then you have your performance again, racer or rival combat. Racer is gonna make you go fast, but we're going to steer like a boat. It's good for flat ground, but you will go faster, but you're more likely to roll over. I like always going with the rival combat because I like being able to get higher reverse speeds and traction, turning, and brakes, and more control. I like control of the vehicles when I'm driving them. Alright, so we're going to get out here. So you can see we got the full setup here. We have 12 positions in the vehicles. There's the 2 gunner seats that are in 2. Let's switch over here to 2. Let me switch to 2 and to 3, which is the rear gun. One thing you can do if you're solo is fire out of your one weapon, and then when you run out, just hit your reach. If it it'll automatically go into the reload cycle. When you run out, so when it runs out all the way, then switch over to the other one and start firing. And by the time you get done emptying this magazine out, the other one will have been reloaded, and then you can switch to that back to that one, and so that way you can kind of run and gun yourself if you have to. You don't want to do that. You want to usually have at least one guy in here with you when you're moving asunder, so you can still drive while you're gunning. Now, when you're in the live game around bases, there's going to be a red zone. It'll be red tinted on your mini map. You won't be able to deploy in areas where it's tinted red. That goes for doing construction, building construction, and deploying ants as well. If I'm not in a red area, then I can hit my redeploy button, and that's however you have it set. I have mine set so the redeploying the vehicle is the same for switching my fire rates on the firearms, and that makes it easier so I can use it for both. That works for me anyway. So right now this vehicle is deployed. It's a stealth vehicle, so you can see how it looks. When it's like that, it can't see you. The enemy can't see it. And see this warbly area around here where I'm also invisible. This goes out for a certain distance away from the vehicle. Once you're outside of it, you become visible. While you're inside of it, you are invisible. And so that can keep you, while the guys are out there maybe, walking around outside as an enemy, they're not going to see you. If you start firing in here at the enemy and you hit them, then you're going to become visible. Still getting that warbling effect. If I'm outside, it goes away. If you're in the stealth vehicle and you fire the guns, then you will become visible. So that can be a detriment. So what you can do is, I'm not sure what the default is on it, maybe page down, but it's apparently mine's not working for whatever reason in here. For whatever reason, some of my buttons aren't working in VR. I don't know why, but you can go to a vehicle screen, which will allow you to control whether or not you're the only one able to get in the driver's seat. Anybody can get in the driver's seat, or you lock everybody else except you out of the vehicle. And when you I don't know why it's not letting me do it. So if you put it so that nobody can get in the vehicle, then nobody will be able to fire the guns, and so you won't be able to visible. So a lot of people that run stealth centers will lock it that way so that people can't start firing the weapons and make the vehicle visible on the map. So I'm going to go through here, firing as mosquito. I'm going to do the thing where I'm swapping seats just to show how that works. So I'm reloading, so I go to the second one. And if you're the only gunner, you can pretty much have a continuous rate of fire this way. Hopefully you have another gunner so that both guns can be going, because that's really the advantageous way to do it. But this way I can just keep on firing continually at targets. And not have to wait for the reload sequence. Alright, so I don't think I can do it on this map, but I'm going to try it. You can redeploy these sunderers. They'll show up on the map as a deployment location. Let me see if it's letting me do it or not. I don't know if it will. If not, I'm just going to redeploy back to the base. Alright, so if a sunderer's on the map is deployed like that, you can deploy to it. So you can just put it in your enemy base. It's a great resupply point. That works for everybody in the faction. I'll go ahead and go back to the base, get the next vehicle. And out the vehicle terminal again. Whatever vehicle you currently have on the field is still going to show up there on the right. So you got 19 minutes on that Sunderer. If you're outside of that Sunderer more than that amount of time, it clocks all the way down to 0, whatever vehicle it is. If you're outside the vehicle for the timer runs out, the vehicle will be destroyed. But you can just jump back into it and reset the timer. Alright, this is lightning. This is your light tank. And we got engagement radar. This is mainly for anti-air. Some 600 meters. Fire suppression, that repairs your tank automatically. Sets in terms of gets rid of the fire if it's caught on fire, and the smoke, which is for getting unlocked from lock-ons. People can't lock on to you, and it delocks any locked-on attackers. All right, switch over here. We're going to go to the defense slot. We got flanker armor. Flanker armor defends the side of your tank. So if you want to get more armor on your side of the tank, that's the way to go. And I just got a warning about that Cordium silo that I deployed in an earlier video, that's running out of Cordium, and it'll de-res once it runs out of Cordium. Mine guard, anti vehicle mines, and auto repair systems that automatically repairs it. I like using that one. Proximity radar just gives you the ability to see infantry in the area, which can be good if you're using some kind of explosive round, or you're hunting infantry specifically. And vehicle stealth is good if you're trying to sneak around. Performance wise, I'm going to say again, I like using the rival chassis because I like to turn it back up quickly. Racer chassis makes you able to go fast. You can't flip over easy, a lot easier using that. As far as the weapons go, the Viper Lightning is your basic one. Your Viper gives you a multi-fire cannon shell. It is extremely inaccurate at long range. We'll show you what's going on that once we start firing this thing. AP Python is your best bet for sniping. Python Heat is for destroying against infantry and armor, and I believe that's the one that's good against does a better damage against construction objects as well. And the Hesh rounds do more damage against infantry. These three are the flatter firing ones. This one's kind of, we'll show you what's going on with that one, and we're going to go over I'll do a separate video with just the lightning to go over the different kind of shells and the different kind of tanks. This in the Vanguard I'll do different separate videos on just for this kind of stuff. But I'm going to start with the basic one because that's the one that you're going to have when you're first starting out. Once again, with the ammo, I would suggest getting them to 5 or 6. Utility wise, reload speed, if you we can get it, that's great. You really want to be able to reload as fast as you can. Don't go, if you are not a member, I don't suggest getting the highest level one. Get to the second highest level one and stop there. Alright, so I got this all sorted out. My tank's ready to go. I'm going to take my tank out in the field, and I'm going to go ahead and just shoot this rock straight ahead of me. It's not that far away, but you can see how this thing kind of just it's got a high fire rate, but the shells aren't really all hitting in the same place. So you can really especially see it on long range. I'm going to shoot at this mountain up here once I get an area where the trees aren't in the way. And you see how the turret's turning as it's firing off. I'm not turning at all. That's just the turret turning itself. Your shells aren't going to land on the same place. You can see how the last one's like really strayed. So if I want to fire at a target at long distance, I got this mag rider out here. I'm using my zoom. Get my range. See, it's kind of bouncing around. I'm not able to hit it, so I'm just going to fire slower so I can hit it. So if you run up close to something, got this flash right here, and plug away at it. When you get something farther away, Just go ahead. This one's close enough, probably I can just keep on firing it all continuous. But if you get farther distances away, you get to a distance where all your shells aren't going to hit. When you do, then just go down to single fire. Alright, so usually what I use this, primarily use this tank for is Sunday hunting. I'll try to find an enemy sunderer. I thought there's one around here somewhere. There's one, and I just fire away at it. Now, if you're going to go up against enemy center, there's going to be infantry around it. So if you had like a one-shot cannon, you'd have to wait for your cannon to reload. But if there's infantry around there, you want to try to get rid of that infantry while you're attacking. So I ran out of ammo because I don't have the ammo, because I apparently didn't buy the ammo up. So I'm going to go over to the ammo terminal and reload real quick. Thought I had clicked on that. Maybe I hadn't. So I'm at an ammo terminal. It's got my color up there, so I know it's mine. It's reloading here. It's going to make that clicking sound while it's reloading. Yeah, I'll pull out here in the field again. And so while I'm fighting against this Sunderer, there might be infantry out here that want they're repairing it, or they're trying to defend it. They're shooting at me. So having the Viper Lightning gives me some rounds where I can try to destroy the infantry if I need to while firing on the Sunderer as well, hopefully. And that Sunderer was on fire. That's pretty much why it was destroyed that time. So I'm going to go ahead and redeploy, get another vehicle. 2 more vehicles to go. Got the Vanguard and the Ant. And then I'm going to stop this one and then do the air vehicles. Actually, I'm so close over here already, so I'm going to go ahead and wouldn't let me out there for a second. I don't know what's going on. It's glitching. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, get another vehicle, get the Vanguard. The Vanguard's a heavy tank. For the NC, the Vanu are going to have the Mag Rider, and the TR are going to have the Prowler. Each of them have different different aspects. The primary weapon starts out with the heat. AP cannon is the main cannon I like to use. I'm going to start that. All these are single fire. Alright, and the gunner seat. Basilisk is standard. Basilisk is standard on all the different faction tanks. The specialty weapons for this faction are the Mjolnir, which is like a it's like a kind of like a mortar weapon. The Enforcer, which is like a heat dart thing. Basically, it's like a different kind of a cannon. It's like a rapid fire cannon. It works sort of like the Viper does. Those are the faction weapons. All the factions have access to the Basilisk, the canister, which is an anti-infantry weapon, the halberd, which is basically a secondary AP fire weapon. It's a flat, fairly straight fire weapon. The Walker, which is an anti-air machine gun. The Ranger, which is an anti-air explosive thing that fires flak rounds that can blind aircraft. And the Cobalt, which is an anti-infantry machine gun. I'm going to put the Enforcer on the top of this. And I'm going to set it up with a zoom and reload speed, the ammo. So let me put the ammo in. So why does it not let me do it? I don't know why it's being hesitant. Maybe because I'm recording this. Okay, so the different kinds of this is in the utility slots. Pretty much, I think everybody's going to be running the Ford Vanguard Shield. That is extremely useful. That's the specialty for the NC for tanks. So I would use that if you're NC. Defense slot, you can place your flank or armor, anti-vehicle mine guard. Auto repair is what I usually go with. The Nemesis reactor is like an alternative to use to the auto repair. Some people are liking that a lot. Proximity repair is just proximity radar, sorry, is just that set radar just for the vehicle occupants. There's only 2 people in here, so it's only for you and the other guy. Your faction doesn't get benefit, squad doesn't get benefit. And stealth. If you're trying to sneak around and get the ambush on somebody, then it's good use of stealth. These show up on radar range very far out because they're heavy tanks. So I'm going to go with the auto repair. And you got your choice between the racer and the rival. I go with the rival because I like the more control. Alright, so guys, it's all set up. So I'm going to go out and spawn. Thought it was spawning. I don't know what it's doing. There it goes. Alright. So far out that way, there's a mag rider. You're going to kind of have to get used to your distance. You can use your range. You can use your firing to range it. And I like using the tanks from a great distance. Some people like getting right up into somebody's face. I like using them at a distance. I like sniping with them. So that's why I like the AP cannon. On the back seat, the gunner seat. Now I got the Enforcer back here. It's got relatively decent control too. I'm gonna try to fire it out here and overshot. And it doesn't shift a lot, so I can just sit here, and once I have the target set, I can just kind of just fire, and it's going to keep on hitting. Now if you're just sitting here somewhere just plinking away at stuff in a vehicle, so I'm not quite hitting it. It's up some. Why is it not hitting it? I'm shooting over it. I can't see if I shoot over it or behind it. Got it. So if you sit in one place too long, then you're going to start getting beat to bait for light assaults. And we'll go into light assaults a little bit while we're doing the air vehicles in the next video. So basically you want to be able to if you're out here in the field, you're gonna once you have that Spitfire unlocked, you want to set that up, and that way if any light assaults start coming down, you'll start hitting them, because primarily they're not going to show up in your radar until they do damage, or if you have some kind of radar to detect them, and they have ways of defining the radar until they start doing damage. So the Spitfire is very helpful. Alright, so basically I'm going to drive over some different terrain here real quick with this vehicle so you can get the basic feel of how that's moving over terrain. And while we're doing that, I'll also activate my Vanguard shield if I can get it to activate. Oh no, it's not active. There it goes. And while that's going on, you have an active shield in front. It does not protect your rear, it only protects the front of the tank. And just watching the basic control of the vehicle, going over different kinds of terrain, and just get out here in VR and run around with them on yourself so you get the basic feel for them. So I'm going to redeploy again. It'll be the last ground vehicle. Last ground vehicle is the Ant. It's for construction. There's no cordium out here in VR to play with for whatever reason. I don't know why. And it was the last vehicle that's been added in the normal factions. Other vehicles have been added for the NS robots. Basically, what we have here is the front thing. The driver's weapon is for mining. This is a faster mining, and it also does damage on construction objects. This one's the standard one, and this one can overheat. This one can't overheat. On the back, you can have it comes with the base of the additional mining laser, which will also do damage to structures. And you want to have a backup weapon on here. I think the best weapon to have on here is the walker, to be honest, because there's all kinds of air vehicles that try to hunt ants, and that just seems to be the best thing to have up on top. It's up to you. You might like the basilisk more, or you might want to try to go infantry with cobalt, but I suggest the walker. And get the utilities on it as you're able to. And there's no utilities on the mining lasers. I don't think there is on either one of them. Let me check the other one. Yeah, there isn't on either one of them. And I never used the Howler. I always use the standard one. Okay, so in here, this is in the utility slots. There's some special ones in here. All the ones with C in front of them burn and transport cloak. They burn cordium when you use them, so you have to fill your tank with the with cordium before you can use them. The C barrier puts a force field around your tank, which turns you into basically a battle ant. The C turbo, when you have it loaded up, when you use your turbo on the ant, it depletes your cordium, but it makes you go faster. Fire suppression is the same on the other vehicle. Scout radar is the same it is on the Flash. This radar works for everybody in your faction, so it's highly useful in sieging bases so that your forces can see where the enemy are inside your sphere of your radar. Also, any enemies that are killed that you detected, you get points for spotting them for the kill. So this can get you certs early on where you're not the best, maybe not the best shot, or you're still low level. This is very helpful in getting some certs at low level. Smoke screen, of course, that's for getting rid of the lock-ons. And anybody that's in your smoke screen is protected from lock-ons. So if you're like in a convoy of vehicles and you use smoke screen, all the other vehicles that get hit by the smoke screen, they also get the benefit of the smoke screen for regards to lock-ons. A transport cloak turns you invisible like it was with the Sunderer, and you're invisible as long as you have cordium to burn, and that just goes straight out of your tank from cordium you have supplied up. So in here, really the only thing to take is I'm going to take fire suppression, because the scout radar is useless in here because it doesn't show the enemies in VR for whatever reason. So we're going to go back out here and go into defense. Mine guard is for anti-vehicle mines. And then auto repair repairs you quickly. Reinforced armor is usually what I take. If I'm trying to sneak around with a scout radar, then I use the stealth. If I'm trying to get in a combat situation or mining, I use the reinforced radar. If you can't withstand a battle with a radar and you don't have the turbo to get away, then the auto repair really isn't going to keep you alive. If it doesn't seem to me, for me anyway. You have the high-speed racer and rival again. I'm going to take the rival again. I don't like these things flipping over. Got it all sorted out. I got it all set up. So now I'm going to go out in the field. So I have the weapon up top and the driver's seat driving. Now you can see this is moving pretty quick. This is moving. Base speed is faster than that of a harasser, I believe, or close to it. You can use these for harasser hunting because of that, because of the speed. They do go very fast, especially with a racer's chassis. So if there was, say there was cordium out here and this vehicle was cordium, I would just drive up to it within a certain range. I'd be able to hit my fire button. It would show me the cordium level that I have in my tank on my left, and it would show how much was in the rock or whatever on the right. If I use my fire button to drain the rocks and put it into my tank, and use the fire button to drain it out of my tanks to put it in a silo. It's the same button, your fire button for both, and you get certs for filling your tank and for emptying your tank. So and it's a good way as well to get points early. All right, so I got my walker up top. It doesn't have a great range of fire. The only reason I'm able to fire low at this point is because I'm on elevated turf because of the where I'm at. I'm gonna go down here on the road, so it's a little bit flatter. And you see I can't get this as low as it'll go. So you can get in positions where like I can't shoot that guy right there because how close I am to him. So either you have to get your driver to drop down the nose, drop down the nose of the vehicle so you can fire, or just you're just not gonna be able to hit him. And as we talked about earlier, if you shoot the front of the vehicle, it does less damage. If you shoot the back of the vehicle, it does more. So you want to try to shoot the backs of vehicles, take them down. For the tanks, that works the same as the light. Works the same way the light tanks and the heavy tanks. All right, so I'm going to redeploy. I'm going to do one more thing before we go into in this video, and then go on to the aircraft. When you're on the deploy screen, you can do your customization. When you're not in VR, you can go to customization for your infantry and for your vehicles. When you're not, when you're in a screen, you get all your air and your ground. Any individual vehicle, we're going to go ahead and go with the main battle tank. You can go in and you change appearance to change what you like about them. You can change the trim on them. You can change the lighting if for some reason you want a lot of lights and bling on them, which will make you stand out in the dark and make you a bigger target. I'm against that. And I don't know why it's not shutting off, but it's not. And then out here you got the exteriors where you can try the different plating. All this is pay to use. I don't think any of it unlocks through certs. It's all cash. You get your ornaments and your decals, and when you apply the decal, it puts it on your tank. And you can get camo, and that's also the same thing where this all stuff is pay to use. You get a couple different camos unlocked for free. They're on here somewhere. There's some of them I've unlocked myself, but they'll be in here listing. A couple of them are unlocked. And you just pick whichever one you want for your tank, whether you want to stand out or just match the other guys in your unit, or actually get some kind of defense for the terrain. That's probably a decent Esmir one. Be able to blend in with the rocks and stuff on the ice planet. Something like that one would be good for maybe Hawson or something. So and then when you go back up here, and then you can do all your fix your weapons up here and everything as well. We did the change appearance part. What it also has, each of these has this search thing over here, and this goes into what's going on here. But some vehicles have passive things that aren't going to necessarily show up. So I'm going to go into the harasser because I think it has a passive. So the passive ones are ones that you're not going to see out here on this screen. So you're not going to be able to play them up in there. You have to go into harasser search to be able to see them. And the passive on the harasser is the turbo. You get a base turbo, but then you can buy it up in here to different levels. Here's the utility slots for the fire suppression, the gauge diffuser, and the smoke screen. Your defense things like the one over before with the composite armor. This is just a different way to access it. And all the passive one's the only one that doesn't show up on this screen. But all these other ones is just another way to look at it, so you can kind of see what the higher level things do on this screen versus on these screens. You just it'll just tell you what your current level does and what your next level does if you try to buy it up. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up there with the ground vehicles, and we'll start another video on the air vehicles in the VR.